Good morning, Earthlings. How are you? Josh Poet with you here, First Contact Radio. Hope you're doing well today. We've got a lot of news and information for you. Some of it's it's not gonna make you very happy to hear it, but you need to hear it to know what's going on out there in the Dog and Pony show that they keep putting in front of you. Before we get to that, let's get to the day's date, the dream spell date. It is a blue day, blue lunar night. Blue is the color of transformation. Lunar tone, the 2 dots, tone number 2. It's called the lunar tone of challenge. The symbol for today is the night, N-I-G-H-T, as in a nighttime where you dream, and the dreams, the idea of abundance that comes from dreams. And the guide for today is the eagle, and the eagle's all about vision. So the blue lunar night, guided by the eagle. We're on the 10th, magnetic 10. What that is we're on the 10th day of the magnetic month, or the magnetic moon. Magnetic tone, as we know, is number 1, so we're in the first moon, the first month. 10 days into the first month, that's where we are, okay? The phrase for today is I polarize in order to dream, stabilizing intuition. I seal the input of abundance with the lunar tone of challenge. I am guided by the power of vision. And on the Gregorian calendar, it is Thursday, August 4th, 2011. The dream spell information I gave you today can be found on a widget that is downloadable for free at firstcontactradio.com. It's on the right-hand side of the page. Scroll down just a little bit and you'll see some information about the law of time and then the dream spell. Download it. It's a free widget. It has lots of great information so you can keep track on a daily basis of where we are and what's going on. All right? That's our information for today to get us started. Now let's jump to our story for today. We've been following the story of the mystery of the Sphinx. We did part 1, part 2, and 3, so we're going to continue on with part 4. Here we go. Enjoy.
The Sphinx and the pyramids link up to form a gigantic astronomical hologram of the skies above Egypt around the year 10,500 BC. In that epoch, and only in that epoch, the key celestial bodies are represented with faultless accuracy, viewed from every conceivable angle and direction. When we remember the uncanny precision with which the pyramid builders worked, it's impossible to ascribe such interlocking complexity to coincidence. What we have here is a massive and deliberate time marker for the epoch of 10,500 BC, almost 8,000 years before Egyptian civilization is supposed to have begun.
Other evidence supports that date, particularly the type of erosion found on the Sphinx. John West believes it was caused not by sand, but by water, and he says the evidence was there all along.
Well, nobody was looking for it. It's a bit like if you're looking for potatoes, you can walk right through a field full of diamonds and see a lot of nasty, glittering stones. So the geology was simply taken for granted. Nobody looked for it, nobody found it.
West's conclusion is based on the Sphinx's extremely distinctive pattern of weathering.
You don't even have to be a geologist to look at it and see what must have been responsible for that kind of weathering. Only water pouring in sheets over the enclosure wall could have produced those rounded contours.
Though the exact age of any stone is difficult to determine, a history of the rock can be constructed by looking at the characteristics of its erosion. When stone is exposed to wind and sand, the layers will appear soft and scoured out. This kind of erosion is very common in Giza. But the Sphinx and its surrounding pit are worn differently. They show a different kind of erosion altogether. A round, undulating profile usually caused by rainwater and torrential downpours. When confronted with this evidence, Egyptologists deduced that the flooding of the Nile would have caused the damage. But John West disagrees.
No, absolutely not, because the Nile floods would come in from the bottom, and if it had been flooding by Nile waters, you'd have a different pattern of erosion. You'd have the walls undercut. In other words, you'd have the deepest erosion at the bottom, not at the top. And you also wouldn't get those deep fissures.
John West's findings raise many questions. In the ensuing debate, geologists side with him, but Egyptologists have so far offered little response to his conclusions. Journalist Paul Roberts.
West is really an academic's worst nightmare, because here comes somebody way out of left field with a thoroughly well thought out, well presented, coherently described, beautifully written, full of data you can't refute, and it pulls the rug from beneath your feet. So how do they deal with it? They ignore it. They hope it'll go away. And it won't go away.
Evidence of repair work on the Sphinx seems to lend credence to West's theory.
Here we're looking at a section of the earliest repairs. You see that some 2 to 3 feet of repair blocks were necessary in order to bring the Sphinx back to its original contours. We're told that these repairs were done within 300 years of the original carving of the Sphinx. Now the question arises, why would 3 feet of repairs been necessary over the course of just some 300 years? Egyptologists insist that the stone the Sphinx is carved from is of such poor quality that it weathered away 3 feet in just 300 years. This presents another problem. If the stone the Sphinx is carved from is of such poor quality,
the Sphinx and the pyramids link up to form a gigantic astronomical hologram of the skies above Egypt around the year 10,500 BC. In that epoch, and only in that epoch, the key celestial bodies are represented with faultless accuracy, viewed from every conceivable angle and direction. When we remember the uncanny precision with which the pyramid builders worked, it's impossible to ascribe such interlocking complexity to coincidence. What we have here is a massive and deliberate time marker for the epoch of 10,500 BC, almost 8,000 years before Egyptian civilization is supposed to have begun.
Other evidence supports that date, particularly the type of erosion found on the Sphinx. John West believes it was caused not by sand, but by water, and he says the evidence was there all along.
well, nobody was looking for it. It's a bit like if you're looking for potatoes, you can walk right through a field full of diamonds and see a lot of nasty, glittering stones. So the geology was simply taken for granted. Nobody looked for it, nobody found it.
West's conclusion is based on the Sphinx's extremely distinctive pattern of weathering.
You don't even have to be a geologist to look at it and see what must have been responsible for that kind of weathering. Only water pouring in sheets over the enclosure wall could have produced those rounded contours.
Though the exact age of any stone is difficult to determine, a history of the rock can be constructed by looking at the characteristics of its erosion. When stone is exposed to wind and sand, the layers will appear soft and scoured out. This kind of erosion is very common in Giza. But the Sphinx and its surrounding pit are worn differently. They show a different kind of erosion altogether. A round, undulating profile, usually caused by rainwater and torrential downpours. When confronted with this evidence, Egyptologists deduced that the flooding of the Nile would have caused the damage. But John West disagrees.
No, absolutely not, because the Nile floods would come in from the bottom, and if it had been flooding by Nile waters, you'd have a different pattern of erosion. You'd have the walls undercut. In other words, you'd have the deepest erosion at the bottom, not at the top. And you also wouldn't get those deep fissures.
John West's findings raise many questions. In the ensuing debate, geologists side with him, but Egyptologists have so far offered little response to his conclusions. Journalist Paul Roberts.
West is really an academic's worst nightmare, because here comes somebody way out of left field with a thoroughly well thought out, well presented, coherently described, beautifully written, full of data you can't refute, and it pulls the rug from beneath your feet. So how do they deal with it? They ignore it. They hope it'll go away. And it won't go away.
Evidence of repair work on the Sphinx seems to lend credence to West's theory.
Here we're looking at a section of the earliest repairs. You see that some 2 to 3 feet of repair blocks were necessary in order to bring the Sphinx back to its original contours. We're told that these repairs were done within 300 years of the original carving of the Sphinx. Now the question arises, why would 3 feet of repairs be necessary over the course of just some 300 years? Egyptologists insist that the stone the Sphinx is carved from is of such poor quality that it weathered away 3 feet in just 300 years. This presents another problem. If the stone the Sphinx is carved from is of such poor quality,
The Sphinx and the pyramids link up to form a gigantic astronomical hologram of the skies above Egypt around the year 10,500 BC. In that epoch, and only in that epoch, the key celestial bodies are represented with faultless accuracy, viewed from every conceivable angle and direction. When we remember the uncanny precision with which the pyramid builders worked, it's impossible to ascribe such interlocking complexity to coincidence. What we have here is a massive and deliberate time marker for the epoch of 10,500 BC, almost 8,000 years before Egyptian civilization is supposed to have begun.
Other evidence supports that date, particularly the type of erosion found on the Sphinx. John West believes it was caused not by sand, but by water, and he says the evidence was there all along.
well, nobody was looking for it. It's a bit like if you're looking for potatoes, you can walk right through a field full of diamonds and see a lot of nasty, glittering stones. So the geology was simply taken for granted. Nobody looked for it.
What if our government was responsible for some of the greatest crimes against this nation? Would you really want to know? These are big questions, but these questions deserve answers. It's time to demand the truth.
People should not be afraid of their governments. Governments should be afraid of people.
9/11 was an inside job. Kennedy was killed by the CIA. Jimmy Carter saw a UFO. Answers to secrets you need to know. So wake up, wake up, wake up, wake up. Wake up, wake up, wake up. Wake up, wake up, wake up, wake up. Wake up, wake up, wake up. The evidence is overwhelming. Step past your fear, take a look. Illuminati lies keep growing. What they're losing from your eyes. And wake up, wake up, wake up, wake up. Wake up, wake up, wake up. Wake up, wake up, wake up, wake up. Wake up, wake up, wake up. What would our founding fathers say if they were alive today? Must be turning in their graves. Redcoats are coming, big brother's watching. Wake up, wake up, wake up, wake up. Wake up, wake up, wake up. Wake up, wake up, wake up, wake up. Wake up, wake up, wake up. One if by land and two if by sea, and I on the opposite shore will be ready to ride and spread the alarm through every Middlesex village and farm. Whenever any form of government becomes destructive of these ends, it is the right of the people to alter or abolish it. When a long train of abuses and usurpations, pursuing invariably the same object, evinces a design to reduce them under absolute
despotism. It is their right, it is their duty to throw off such government and to provide new guards for their future security. Wake up, wake up, wake up, wake up. Wake up, wake up, wake up. Wake up, wake up, wake up, wake up. Wake up, wake up, wake up. Wake up, wake up, wake up, wake up. Wake up, wake up, wake up. Wake up, wake up, wake up, wake up. Wake up, wake up, wake up. Patriots arise. It's time to demand the truth.
This is the UFO News with Joshua Poet.
All right, Dirk, thank you very much. This is Josh, and this is the UFO News for today. Let's get things started here. We're going to go back to an article, reference an article that we talked about earlier this week. It involves the sighting under the Baltic Sea of the supposed spacecraft. Says that this is dated August 4th today. The Swedish Ocean Explorer team is under its leader Peter Lindberg is to revisit the area it found what is suspected to be a massive UFO sighting in 2011. On receiving enough funds from various sources, the Swedish Ocean Explorers have decided to further probe into the UFO, which they found at the Baltic Sea floor in June 2011. Lindbergh in June told the world that a salvage exploration team discovered a gigantic unidentified flying saucer-like object under the sea. The team was on a mission to recover the precious wine and champagne cans that got buried in the sea when German troops sunk several Swedish cargo vessels during the First World War. The UFO-like object was seen buried in the sea floor. It looked like a gigantic object that has been in shape of a flying saucer, often visualized as a UFO from external planets. Lindbergh said images of the suspected UFO were published on the website of the Explorer team. They've been making huge excitement among UFO enthusiasts across the world. Expedition leader Peter Lindbergh notes that the mysterious objects about 60 meters across, lines in the ocean floor next to it almost look like skidded landing area, writes Amanda Kosher of CNET News. But Lindbergh says his team was struggling with the lack of funds to investigate more about the object. He requested interested agencies and individuals contribute for the mission. Now getting sufficient funds from various sources, the team is to revisit the area to collect more interesting details about the object. UFO fans across the world are anxiously awaiting to hear from the Explorer team again. This story is out on timeswireservice.com. You can find this link on our page, First Contact Radio, right-hand side, daily UFO or UFO news. All right, this story here is also a continuation of a story we played. I'm going to play a little bit of this. This is the BBC reporter who had the UFO experience the other day. So let's go over to here, give you a good bird's eye view, and listen to what he has to say.
Hello YouTube. Okay, so this morning I look at the BBC News website. BBC News is the UK mainstream news, a major one, and surprise, surprise, there was like a headline on. It was actually, let me have a look at this here. It was a UFO sighting, but it was the Radio 5 Live's sports reporter, okay, a sports reporter called Mike Sewell. Okay, so he spotted at about 4:30 this morning, I think if my memory serves me right.
Than a helicopter, probably the size of an aircraft, but it was certainly of a kind of, I dread saying this, disc shape, because it had several lights flashing all around it, and underneath there were at least two large panel lights, soft white lights underneath, and then it just sat, or just circled a certain area above the field for a few moments. I was so gobsmacked, I was trying to negotiate the road, which was a small country lane, and then eventually I dropped down and lost sight of it. But certainly for 2 or 3 minutes, I saw what I think was not a normal aircraft. And I'd love the person who was driving in front of me in that what looked like a VW transporter, a silver transporter, to contact someone like the police or yourself, because they would have seen it as well. And it was quite a weird moment, and I was wide awake, and you know me, Rachel, George, I'm of sound mind.
All right, there you heard it. A bit of him talking about it. You can find this and watch the whole video. It's about 10 minutes in length. But you heard in the words of the reporter himself about what happened. Now, here's a UFO sighting over Adelaide, Australia. An orb following a jet contrail. This was from a week ago on the 30th of July, or last week. Okay, here's the contrail. Here's the little UFO orb in question right here. Okay, we're going to scroll down. Here's another image. Contrail UFO orb. So these are the things. It says, watch the contrail of the jet closely and you will see an orb appear above it. Move behind over the contrail. Usually these orbs hide in the clouds, but sometimes you can catch them following aircraft. They seem to be very curious about anything that gets near them. So let's take a look at this. Okay. There's the contrail. There you go. He's pointing to it right here. Alright. It's very faint in the video. It's a lot brighter in the picture. Okay. There you go. He's pointing it out for you again so you can see it better. Alright, you can see it kind of sometimes a little clearer than others. But it is definitely up there now. It is flying right here back to the back of the contrail. Alright, so they are up there, they are flying above contrails, they are checking out things that silly humans and earthlings do to mess up the planet, the atmosphere, and so on. Probably wondering what's being sprayed up there. I'm sure they know. Now, there were a lot of sightings in Kansas City on the weekend, I believe last weekend, 17 to be exact. So here's a summary in 2 minutes of 17 UFO sightings in Kansas.
If you noticed strange lights in the sky over the weekend, you aren't alone. KCTV5's Alan Shope went to Lee's Summit to get to the bottom of more than a dozen UFO sightings.
I mean, it's actually pretty large. It looked like it was about a mile away.
It was not something Felix Figueroa and his friends expected to see last weekend.
Go make sure everyone immediately, while it's still fresh in their mind, draws a picture of what they saw. And so we all took out a piece of paper and we all do the same thing.
Yeah, a strange metal-looking ship hovering over Lee's Summit. Felix says he never really believed in UFOs till now.
We were all stunned. I mean, we were all just in awe. I mean, I don't even know how I didn't run off the road.
Felix is not alone. Margie Kay with the Missouri Mutual UFO Network says it was a busy weekend in Kansas City. 17 different people with sightings contacted her office this weekend alone.
This last weekend was really, really big. Saturday late night to Sunday morning during a 6.5-hour period, we had so far to date 17 witnesses call in about UFOs that they've seen.
No one knows if UFOs actually exist or why they'd be hanging out in the Kansas City area. One thing is for sure, for the folks who witnessed the strange events this last weekend, they wish they'd have taken pictures. Richard Vick wished he'd have taken pictures of a strange sight that he saw in the sky Saturday off 435 and 63rd Street in Missouri.
I was looking out my window towards the east. Under the tree line, there was an orange orb. And it was traveling, I'd guess, 40, 50 miles an hour. And it hit the tree line, and then it would just start to move up and just explode into like 5 balls.
As for Felix, he has a message for those who may not believe.
Definitely have second thoughts, and I would say that it's a possibility, especially after what I saw.
In Lee's Summit, Alan Shope, KCTV5 News.
Strange indeed. Well, we called Whiteman Air Force Base. A spokesperson says they didn't have anything in the skies Saturday night, and they are not aware of any pending UFO investigations.
Alrighty, so no pending investigations, and of course, the United States Air Force is happy to oblige with the information about what they find. So, UFO Festival ready to take off this weekend. Here's our last story for today. People from near and far will be attending the Shag Harbor Incident Festival this weekend for the celebration and in fascination of the 1967 UFO visit to the seaside community. We have people who are coming from Edmonton, Ontario, and Pennsylvania, said festival organizer Cindy Nickerson, adding that she has also had calls throughout the province as well as New Brunswick, so is hoping for a good turnout. The annual festival gets underway Friday at Shag Harbor Incident Center with a multitude of activities throughout the day, including a washer tournament, children activities, and the premiere of the Shag Harbor Idol Talent Contest. Also on tap are talks with local eyewitnesses to the 1967 UFO incident, a lecture by world-renowned UFO researcher and author Stanton Friedman, as well as boat tours to the UFO crash site. On Saturday, Freeman will be joined by fellow UFO authoritarian Donald Ledger for the presentation all about UFOs. The Malcolm Rose Memorial Boat Races will wrap up at the festival in the afternoon. All lectures as well as the Shag Harbor Idol Concert will be held at the Shag Harbor Fire Hall and the Post Office and the Incident Center, serving as other venues. To register for more information on Shag Harbor Idol, contact Music Director Dale Nickerson at 723-2385. Cash prizes will be awarded. So we have this link up and you can see the schedule of everything they're going to be doing. So there you have it. That's our UFO news for today. What's going on in the world above you. Alright, I am going to jump away for about a minute. I'll be back. Stay tuned. Here we go.
Headline edition, July 8th, 1947.
One day, I was looking to the sky. I saw up above the clouds, it was a silver shiny disc floating high above the ground. Then I saw them waving to me. It was E.T. and his family. Something happened up the street from the ground. The sky had shot the UFO down. Roswell, didn't make it home. Roswell, Evie didn't make it home.
The Army Air Force.
Alright, and I'm back here. So, continuing on with our news for today. For those of you who are listening at Blog Talk, well, in another minute and a half, we're going to be switching off our stream there. You can catch us continuing on over at firstcontactradio.com. Just click on this Ustream link. Alright, our next story up on the agenda. Well, you heard a lot about what went on over the course of this last week about the Super Congress. You see, what happened in the United States of America was not a good thing. I asked folks about it the other day. Did you know what happened the other day? No, what happened? About the debt ceiling? No, what happened? People didn't know. People still don't know. Yet on that day, Congress, which is usually comprised of over 500 members that are involved with the decisions of this country, had their power taken away from them. And that power was put into the hands of 13 individuals, 6 Republicans, 6 Democrats, and of course, the ever so on top of things, Osama, the president of the United... Did I say Osama? You know, it's easy to get those two mixed up. Obama, Osama, you understand. I'm sure you do the same thing. Now, the so-called debt ceiling crisis has nothing to do with government running out of money. It is the creation of a super committee, a council of 13 designed to circumvent Congress and ignore the will of the American people. The ruling elite have a plan to take America down, and the takedown has a timeline, a schedule, and it has been interrupted by the back and set back by Congress, despite the fact that Congress usually does whatever the globalists tell them to do. Certain members hold up the agenda by holding hearings and introducing resolutions and everything from the Federal Reserve to the globalist wars in the Middle East, South Asia, and now Africa. The hand-picked Super Congress, 6 members from the Senate, 6 from the House, and the President forming a committee of or gang of 13 will now push through the elite's agenda behind closed doors in direct violation of the Constitution. Like the Supreme Soviet, the Council of 13 will take on trappings of democracy. Because the committee was proposed by elected officials, namely Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell and his counterpart Majority Leader Harry Reid, with the consent House Speaker John Boehner, but will act as dictatorship by committee. If allowed to stand, the United States will have its own central committee, just like the former United States. The Constitution allows each House of Congress to set its own rules. Early on, debate and filibuster were added to the rules. The Committee of 13, however, will strip Congress of its power to filibuster. It will prevent the Speaker from stopping a vote in the House. It will fast-track the entire globalist agenda, from carbon taxes to total destruction of the Second Amendment. It will end amendments to laws and will only allow an up or down vote in legislation. It will turn Congress into rubber stamp even more than it already is. In their wisdom, the framers envisioned the House as a place of heated debate and the Senate as a more staid place where the rhetoric would cool down. It has its origins in the concept integral to our political system, that the rights of the minority must be protected from the force of the majority. The idea and the practice of the Super Congress, a Committee of 13, puts an end to this tradition. It is a totalitarian steamroller. Now there's more to this article. It is up at our page and it's linked to Infowars.com. It's an article by Kurt Nimmo. So what happened wasn't a good thing, okay? Not a good thing. It's getting closer to the state of dictatorship because now they just took Congress down. They took the power away from Congress. I don't know why at this point people aren't more riled up. We should be in the streets, rioting in great numbers, marching to Washington and grabbing those crooks in office and throwing them in jail. That's where they all belong. They have hijacked this country, and now they have 13 members, 6 Republicans, 6 Democrats, and an inept president who are going to make decisions for this country, and they're going to supersede the process that the Constitution called for, and you're okay with that? Really? Okay. Keep sitting by. Keep being apathetic. Keep watching your friends being apathetic, and the country's going to go down the tubes. And one day your children are going to ask you what happened, and you'll be able to tell them, just like in the movies, freedom died with a thunderous applause, because that's what's going on. People are applauding and cheering, thinking this is a great thing. It's not a great thing. Your freedoms have just been taken from you. Your Constitution has been shredded in front of you. And the magic of all of this, it was done right in front of your very eyes as the mainstream media continued to feed you their nonsense so that you would accept it, piece by piece, as you swallow down their nonsense and their lies, lie after lie. It's time to put an end to that, don't you think? It's time for Americans to step up. Do you have it in you, America, to step up, or are you too consumed with all of your luxuries? Or are you ready to take some action? Because I know a lot of apathetic people out there, and it'd be nice if you all stood up so that there's not a few people talking and most people listening, but a lot of people actually standing up and doing something. If you're sitting there and you're one of the apathetic ones, you know I'm talking about you. You know who you are. Get off your butts. Do something. This country needs your help, and it's no longer time for you to sit back. It's no longer time. It's time for action. Okay. Now here's one that should really tick you off. They went through these whole debates. They went through all of this dog and pony show. They brought out the woman who had been shot to get your emotional sympathy during the moment when it was really crucial that you paid attention to the debt. And after they did this, the U.S. eats up most of its debt limit in one day. $239 billion spike uses up 60% of the fund okayed on Tuesday. U.S. debt shot up $239 billion on Tuesday, the largest one-day bump in history, as the government flexed the new borrowing room it earned in this week's debt limit increase. The debt suggested that the statutory limit shot up past the old cap of $14.294 trillion to hit $14.532 trillion on Tuesday, according to the latest, the Treasury Department figures, which are released on the next business day. The increase puts the U.S. government already markedly close to the new debt limit of $14.694, which means one day's new borrowing ate up 60% of the $400 billion in space Congress granted the new president this week. 60% of the money that he was given, he spent within his first day. How do you like Obama now? All those that voted for him. How do you like the way that he's behaving? He seems to be so out of touch with what's going on in this country. And the politicians are so out of touch with what's happening in America as well, that these things go on. They do a show, dog and pony show. Most people buy it because they turn it on Fox and they say, oh, look, it's on Fox. Must be real. It's on CNN. Must be real. It's on MSNBC. Must be real. It is real. Real lies. That's what they want you to know. That's what they want you to believe. And if you leave your news there, then that's all you're going to believe. But if you go online and you search alternative media, you're going to find the truth of what's there. It's really not that difficult. It just all depends upon you and your courage. Are you courageous enough to take a look and see what's going on? If you are, then you'll figure it out. And if you're not, well, then they're just going to keep sliding these things past you. Here's another one. Government will borrow $72 billion in debt auctions next week. The government will borrow $72 billion in debt auctions next week now that Congress has raised the nation's borrowing limit. The Treasury Department said it will sell 3-year notes, 10-year notes, and 30-year bonds to raise the money. About one-third will go to repay debts that are due on August 15th. President Barack Obama cleared the way for the auction on Tuesday when he signed into law a bill that raises the debt ceiling and promises more than $2 trillion in cuts to government spending over the next decade. The U.S. government currently borrows 40 cents of every dollar that it spends. Initial debt ceiling limit increase of $400 took effect immediately on Tuesday. That will allow the nation to borrow what it needs through September, the Treasury Department estimates. I'm telling you, they're killing this country one after another, right in front of people's eyes. When are people going to wake up? All right, I'm going to move on here, and you're going to listen to a story now. This is Charlie McGrath giving his information. Listen to what he has to say. Played some the other day. Here's a current one.
Hi, my name's Charlie McGrath. I'm the founder of WideAwakeNews.com, as well as a host on the Rinse Radio Network. And I want to talk about the next crisis. Okay, we've been treated to years now worth of crises that one leading to another, leading to another. Every time we see a crisis, we have to have emergency legislation passed in order to avoid the propagandize in the financial world if we didn't allow Washington, D.C. to usurp more of your financial freedom and to give more of your potential earnings to a bunch of too big to fails. Now, the latest of which was the debt ceiling increase. This bill that created the Super Congress, this bill that stole your financial future against your will, even though the majority of the people in this nation did not want a debt ceiling increase. It happened anyway. It's the same story over and over again for the last 3 years since the 2008 financial meltdown. Well, the bill is now law, and the law is barely a day old, and the Treasury has managed to spend $238 billion, bringing our national debt above our GDP. $14.58 trillion is now your national debt, my national debt, and our GDP last year was $14.53 trillion. We are in the leagues of nations such as Greece and Italy, these other nations who their national debt far outpaces their GDP, and reality is these nations are going through austerity. And here comes your crisis of reality. The austerity measures that are about to come our way are going to be like nothing we've ever seen or even dreamt about in this country. Certainly worse than any of the politicians getting before the cameras will tell you is coming. They're telling you if you go further into debt, everything's going to be okay. But the crisis of reality is here. That's why a Reuters article today highlighted the fact that President Obama and Federal Reserve Chairman Bernanke are out of bullets. They have nothing left. It goes on in the article to be apologists for them that they've tried everything. QE1, QE2, Stimulus 1, Stimulus 2. There's just nothing left that can be done to help create jobs in this country. Meanwhile, for the last 3 years, you were being told all these programs were going to save this economy. But in fact, the only thing it did was shovel failure onto you while taking your financial future and giving it to the too big to fail. This is the condition we're in this country right now. And the reason for this video is not to rehash what everybody who watches this channel already knows. It's to tell you that you better get prepared, at least mentally prepared. You know, I said in 2010, 2011 is going to be the year of austerity. It is coming fast. It is coming furious. You see what's happening in the markets right now. Don't let this small bounce to date fool you. Insider trading or insider selling is at a 13.1 to 1 ratio. The highest level it's been since 1974, since records have been kept on this statistic. The Dow Jones is set to crumble. Your so-called freedom that's coming from going further into debt is going to be seen for what it is, which is an enslavement trap. A trap that's going to make you indebted to the United States government, and more importantly and more accurately to the too big to fail that's financing the rise to power and the rise to glory from these so-called representatives we've had. You know, the reality is this. Austerity is about to be announced and unleashed in this country, and this will be the crisis of reality. When the Super Congress, this gang of 12, this pack of wolves, gets together and decides, hey, let's look at the metrics of the economy. The Dow Jones is crumbling. Our national debt is now above our GDP. We've shot all the bullets. There's nothing left to do. We have to go after what? We're going to go after Medicare. We're going to go after Medicaid. We're going to go after Social Security. That little so-called entitlement you've been paying into your whole working life. One thing could be rest assured, guaranteed. Joe Lieberman said it today. We would rather cut Social Security than reduce any of our military spending. This nation will continue to project its power to try to keep hold of the empire as long as it can, and you're about to be asked to pay with your financial freedom and your financial future in order to finance Empire America. Stories are attached. That's all I got.
All right, very good. Good information as always from Charlie. All right. So what are we going to do, folks? Are we just going to sit by and idly watch this? Or are we going to stand up and do something? I say that it's time that people do something. All right? There's a lot of you out there just sitting by and listening and listening and listening. You've heard a lot of us talking. Now it's time for action. Now it's time to join the game because things are getting more serious every day. Now turning to natural type of things, maybe. Here's a situation about more fish that died. This is overnight near the Rio Grande by Roswell, New Mexico. Listen to this.
Fish are floating in the Rio Grande and Rio Rancho. We saw several dead fish just a couple of hours ago in the River's Edge area subdivision. Game and Fish thinks a downpour may have washed debris into the water upstream and suffocated the fish. They're looking into where it may have happened. Game and Fish says ash being washed into the river from the Las Conchas fire could also be to blame. Officials with Game and Fish were out testing the water in the River's Edge area today, and they say the water samples there are okay. We have a crew working on this story, and we'll bring you much more tonight at 5.
Something killed a lot of fish in the Rio Grande overnight, and state game and fish officers think it had a lot to do with heavy rain and forest fires upstream. Stuart Dyson is live near the river right now with what he's learned about this. Stu?
Nicole, most likely it all amounts to this equation. Ash in the water means less oxygen in the water, and that adds up to dead fish. Carp, catfish, white suckers, dead as doornails in the Rio this morning when Marcy Brandenburg and her husband took the dogs for a walk at River's Edge in Rio Rancho.
Then we started looking in the river, and pretty much everywhere you can see dead fish lying around. We also walked down the river south, and same situation, same scenario, fish everywhere.
Is this just alarming?
I find it extremely alarming.
Game and fish officers testing the water's acidity along with the oxygen level. Normal here and now, but maybe not upriver the night before. Here's a Jemez mountain stream we found flash flooding Friday night. Black as asphalt, loaded with ash from the Las Conchas fire. This stream feeds straight into the Rio Grande, and there are many more like it in the Jemez.
A lot of things, whether it be ash or whatever, got washed into the river very quickly, and probably in a certain spot, it depleted the oxygen so much that the fish couldn't survive.
Game and fish guys say they see this kind of fish kill pretty frequently, but usually in lakes, not usually in a flowing river. And our friends there at Game and Fish say they are going to keep a real close eye on the river, and if you see a substantial fish kill, give them a call. They're pretty easy to reach. On the banks of the Rio Grande, Stuart Dyson, KOB, Eyewitness News 4.
All right, as he said, ash or whatever. Wonder what else that could be. Let's see, were there any other problems out there in the New Mexico area that could have gotten some... Oh, wait, Los Alamos. There was radiation that was reported in the air. Is there a possibility any of this maybe got into the water? I don't know. But it certainly could be in the category of the whatever that he talks about. Man, I'm telling you, it's getting crazier and crazier. Now, here's a story. This is actually a kind of a good story. It says a mother accused of punching her toddler son in the mouth on a city bus and shouting expletives at him was surrounded by a hostile crowd of passengers until police arrived, authorities said Wednesday. Erica Ryan pleaded not guilty on Wednesday in Roxbury District Court to a charge of assault and battery on a child causing injury. Prosecutors requested bail to be set at $25,000. A judge set bail at $500 and ordered Ryan to stay away from the boy. Transit police said 25-year-old Ryan punched her 1-year-old son, called them names for refusing to eat Tuesday on the Massachusetts Bay Transportation Authority bus. A hostile crowd of passengers surrounded her and wouldn't let her off the bus until authorities arrived, police said. Well, I think that's kind of a good story because at least people are standing up to something. They're seeing something bad happening. They're standing up. Hey, it's a start, right? People can continue to do this. Who knows? We might be surrounding corrupt police officers. We might be surrounding corrupt politicians. We might actually be dragging them off to jail. That would be awesome if Americans actually took action like that. Let's see what happens. Now, in California, there was a raid that took place. Not the typical kind of raid. Oh no, they went for the really high target items. The place that was raided, as you can see here, well, it was a raw foods raid. That's right, raw foods. Consolidated update. Multiple sources have confirmed the fact that 3 individuals arrested, James Stewart, Victoria Bloch, and Sharon Palmer, are being charged with conspiracy related to the sale of unpasteurized raw milk products. Did you hear that, folks? Unpasteurized raw milk products. So now raw milk products are a danger. Dun, 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 dun. The report includes sections of the California Penal Code, sections 182A. Additional charges may also be pending that include a charge of mislabeling cheese. For Sharon Palmer was arrested during a raid of Healthy Family Farms. There's a video included here. Let's take a look at this video. Alright, here you can see the police coming up in the background.
So here we have the feds, the SWAT team was here,
and they're loading up a bunch of raw organic fruits and vegetables into a truck. I don't know why, but load them all up into a truck. I just want to eat. I just came to get some mangoes. I wonder what they're going to do with those mangoes on that truck.
All right, they're probably going to throw them away because those mangoes, well, they can be like grenades in the wrong hands. I'm telling you, they could be weapons of mass destruction in the wrong hands. And that raw milk, whew, what you could do with that, I'm telling you, could get crazy out there, folks. Raw milk and mangoes in the wrong hands, all hell could break loose. Here's a suggestion for all you Washington police officers, those who are busy raiding raw food places. How about if you actually go and do a raid upon Congress and those who are violating the Constitution? Why don't you try that? That has a little bit more importance than the raw food that you're raiding there. The Constitution, unless, of course, you no longer believe in the Constitution, which is quite a possibility because I don't believe that I've seen a lot of officers really standing behind the Constitution. The ones that I've met, when I ask them about it, they just seem to think of it as a silly piece of paper. So maybe that's the case here. But really, raiding a raw food store? I'm sure the police have better things to do. And if not, I'm sure they could find better things to do. What a sad state of affairs for you police officers. How embarrassing for you to have to go out on that kind of a mission. Is that what you signed on for? Are you getting the bad guys now? All right, we're going to close things out here. What I want to do is I wanted to make a point every day of bringing some astrology into the mix here. And we've got this website, horoscope.com. I like this one. It's just a nice general deal for the day. So let's take a look at this one for today. It says the Mercury-Mars sextile slows things down. Experiences won't pass you by because you aren't communicating or listening. The later help when you settle differences of opinion. Remember, with Mercury retrograde, step back, look with the eyes on the prize. Tonight you shine with Joel DeVary. All right. So the main thing about this is we are in the Mercury retrograde. We are in the time of Leo. Okay, the astrological sign of Leo. Leo brings fire, energy. And the tarot card, it is the card of strength. We need to, just be aware of the energies that we're working with, but most specifically now, the Mercury retrograde. Remember, things appear to go backwards. It's not necessarily the case, but it's a time to revisit our communications. Think before we talk. Think before we do certain things, whatever we're doing, because in these days there's an opportunity for miscommunications, arguments, and things of that nature. You can avoid them. Just be clear about what you're thinking and doing, and that will help the situation. All right? Now, we're going to get to the last bit of information here, and that is our meditation for today. So, what I'd like you to do, my friends, is I'd like you to close your eyes. And I'd like you to imagine, that as you look out into the world, that your eyes are able to see through the lies. And as you see out into the world and you see lies, you recognize them as a different color than the truths. And because you recognize the lies as a different color than the truths, it makes it easy to understand the difference between the lies and the truth. And look around and notice all the places where you see the lies. And notice the places where you see the truths. I want you to imagine that upon seeing the lies, that you're able to go ahead and help dissipate those lies by simply sending energetic truth in those directions. And as you send the energy of truth in the direction of the lies, Notice how the darkness dissipates and truths become more abundant. And as truths become more abundant, notice that all of the people that you see are happier and more at peace because the truths in life have removed all the fears and all the limitations. The truths has helped to set free all those who feel that they are not. Now, let's make sure all our chakras are turned on, starting with the chakra at the bottom of your spine, color red. Raise that energy up from the bottom of the spine to the chakra above it, color orange. From the orange chakra, raise the energy up to the chakra above it, just below the rib cage, color is yellow. From the yellow chakra, raise the energy up to the chakra above it, the heart, color is green. From the green heart chakra, raise the energy up above it to the throat, imagine the color blue. From the throat chakra, raise the energy up to the crown, to the third eye, just above your nose, right between the two eyes, imagine the color violet. And finally, to the crown, top of your head, bring the energy up, imagine the color indigo turning to white as the energy shoots up into the cosmos. Feel your connection to the earth and to the cosmos. Understand your connection, your position between the earth and the sky. Understand your place energetically between the earth and the sky, and know how you draw the energy down and draw it up. In you, in the middle, are a regulator between these two. Now, allow your energy to overflow through your body. Imagine the line of spiritual armor being formed around you. And last, let's go ahead and send love from your heart chakra, the green colored heart chakra. Let's send it out around the world, connecting with others all around the planet at this very moment. And feel the love that is being sent from all of others around this planet. Feel the love coming your way as well. And in holding this idea of love in your heart, let's bring our attention back to the present moment. And as we do, let us also add to it a successful thought for the world today. Let's imagine abundance for everybody on the planet. 3, coming back to the present moment filled with confidence. 2, coming back to the present moment filled with abundance. And 1, coming back to the present moment happy, healthy, and whole. Happy, healthy, and whole. And that brings us to the end of the show, my friends. That is our information for today. So hopefully those will be enough to kind of keep you informed, give you a direction so you can go follow the trail yourself and continue on with the research. Every day we can take one more step in the right direction, my friends. Remember, there's more of us than there are of them. We just need to stand up. We just need to stand up. And if we do, then all of these lies and this mistruths can be dealt with accordingly. We are the people. We have the power. We need to realize that, and when we do, we'll take our power back from those who are abusing it and hurting others. Starts with us, my friends, and it starts with love. Let's go forward in love and let's change the world. Remember, we're all in this together. For Dirk Bradshaw, my name's Josh Poet. I'll be back tomorrow again. I'll talk to you soon. Peace. I'm out of here.